Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So today's trade recap is going to be around, we're going to quickly touch on narrative that we always talk about. And then after that, we're going to talk about a bit of how do you learn, and then kind of how you kind of building your subconscious, right? Because we want to trade off of what we know, obviously, but we want to trade off of what we know to be true and what we've learned from the market versus what we want to be true. So we're just going to make sure that you can differentiate between the two. And then we're going to lightly touch on entries and reaction points. So let's start with the higher time frame. So quite simply, right, there was, if I zoom out, so yesterday gave us quite a nice drop, right? Created this leg. At the end of yesterday's session, price pulled back up into to make a new high, and then obviously price came back down and did not break this leg, right? So we can see we've reacted out of there, and since then we've obviously been bullish. So we can see that the narrative or the intention starts from here, right? Or here, right? This low, or the intention is on every single low, essentially. But the ultimate kind of, I guess, direction or what's giving you that bias is this mitigation out of here. And then we're asking ourselves, right, what's this mitigation going to create? We're looking left, and then obviously we can see liquidity built up and cause built up above us. So this is the 5-minute chart. These boxes essentially represent, at one point this was, a place that I wanted to see a reaction. And that's what kind of led me to be catching these kind of like pullback continuation type trades. So first of all, so that's the kind of narrative, right? The narrative is essentially we have Asian session, and we can see that during Asian we had towards the end of Asia we had this bullish run up, right, that runs into here. And then, I say end of Asia, this is actually this morning, but in Asia we had this, high built, right, equal highs essentially. We saw that run up into this range in the morning, right? So for me, that aggression essentially is what gave me my bias for the day. And I wanted to follow that aggression, looking back and seeing where it come from. So essentially Asian range, right? And we're looking for higher prices outside of the Asian range, right? And then obviously we're going to go down on the lower time frame and check them out. So cool. So that's the narrative. So one thing I like to do, and this is what my question to you is, how do you learn? So one thing I like to do is kind of just get kind of like a zoomed out picture. You can have one chart, two charts, doesn't really matter. But essentially what we want to do here is just ask ourselves, right, look, what can we see? Right? Like this, what can we see? And, where do your eyes jump to? That's what we want to work out first. Where do your eyes jump to? What do you look at and you say, that's clean? That's clean. Is this, when I say clean is in, it's understood, like it's obvious to you. Is this understood? Is this understood, right? Is this reaction here understood? These reactions here understood, right? This reaction out here, is this understood? So on, right? So on. So obviously you could be seeing continuations, right? On the back of pullbacks, you could be seeing, but shorts as well. Off the back of these highs after we break structure and so forth, right? Of course. But just look, what do you see? Right? Don't force it. Just based on what it doesn't have to be pinpoint accurate, but just what is that flow that you recognize? And if you don't recognize anything, then this is what I will say to you is, every time you jump on the charts, you're working, you're building a skill essentially. And a skill, you're building, you want to try and understand, right, how can I build a skill in the most optimum way. At least that's what I try to think. And it may not be perfect, you may not have the right thing, but obviously a consistent thought around that area allows me to, I guess, find that kind of, my recipe for learning, let's say, which is obviously always changing. But the point is here is, for me, I like to understand that, generally my subconscious is going to be soaking up a lot of the information. Even if I don't comprehend it and understand it in that time, right? If I can give myself an opportunity to just look at it and view it, right? Rather think about it, not think about, but have an objective, view, right? Both being someone that understands it, but also being a student at the same time, right? Having that kind of progressive mindset, right? I want to set myself up to feel, like I know what I'm doing, right? And I don't believe I would know what I'm doing if I consistently led, right, from a conscious place. I think a lot of my knowing comes from the subconscious, right? So because of this belief, trading is exactly the same. So I try to look at it in a way that can, as much as I'm learning consciously, I'm also doing things where I'm learning subconsciously. And it may feel like you're not doing anything, but those results are results over time, not necessarily in the moment. But they do bring obviously like aha moments. So what do I mean? So like a lot of I have this chart, I have it marked up. This is how I had it marked up during the session, right? And what I tend to do is, just kind of, and this is something I could recommend after marking up, when you know all the points that are, let's say, right, or where we do react from in hindsight, and then start, training your eyes, essentially, right? Start understanding where these trades are happening, where these locations are, right? What's happening and what's recognizable from what price is doing. Not to say what do you remember, I'm saying what is price actually doing on the chart, right? Over here, we can see that when we got this swing up, right, price started moving sideways, right? So price was sideways for a duration of time, right? Here we can see when price pulled back, didn't pull back very deeply, but we do have this range, right? We did have a break, we did pull back, and then we had this aggression, right? Why does price choose here to react, right? You don't need to know the answer, but it's that process of, right, allowing yourself to see these things, and then over time, you start building a recognition for them. That recognition is not something you necessarily say, hey, this is a XYZ, but you say, hey, I recognize this. This is essentially a range or a pullback to, right, support higher prices, right? That can be your narrative, and then you can follow price delivery to play that narrative. Now, in hindsight, we can say, yeah, these buys are easy. You have to remember, when I was getting into these buys, the only reason why I was because of the narrative of higher prices, right? Not necessarily trying to play each mitigation out of a range, let's say, even though that's what I'm, I tend to be looking for. But yeah, how are you learning, right? How are you training your subconscious? Are you trading from a place of what you believe will happen based off of what you believe, right? Or are you are you looking at charts on what you believe will happen based on what you have observed from the market? And to be able to answer that question, you can't just say yes, right? You have to back that with experience, and not just any experience, but experience that is, with less emotion, let's say, right? With more deep work than versus shallow work in this case, right? You want to be able to have a sustained amount of, a good quality information. You want to be receiving good quality information in that time of study versus, procrastination and disturbances and distractions in that time of study, right? Deep work versus shallow work. And, when we're talking about subconscious, the best thing you could do is be in a deep work state, right? And what a deep work state is essentially is, allowing yourself to see these things with zero distractions. So, a good time to be able to do that is at the end of the day, right? You don't necessarily need to do it in the chart where you may, in the sessions where you may hold some sort of attachment to price based on what it might do, right? Wait for the end and then look to build your skill in that environment. So this environment now is where I start to rehearse and review what works. Yeah? Over and over and over and over, what works. I don't necessarily need to know. I don't believe I need to know. I don't know what I don't know, but me going through this process over and over again is me learning, right? And I don't want to learn from an emotional place. I want to learn from a place that is based on what the market does, right? Not on what I feel. Yeah. So based on that, what we want to do is now get price and look at it like this, right? Objectively, and train our eyes to start understanding, right, how can these trades start becoming obvious to me, right, in the moment, and essentially building that subconscious. So I just wanted to kind of throw in that tip in terms of what I do, and this is something I've always done. A lot of the time I try and keep my charts blank and see it all with my eyes anyway. But yeah, this is obviously good practice for that, and it's probably something I do subconsciously without even realizing the benefits that it has. But it's nothing too serious. It's just, again, giving yourself that constant opportunity to receive the information that's being presented. Even if you don't know it today, it's not about knowing, it's about giving yourself an opportunity to receive it. And here I am giving myself the opportunity to receive it. So I don't necessarily need to describe myself as a certain type of trader. I can just look at the chart objectively and let that decision come to me from the market versus what I believe. So cool, that's that. So look, it's all about putting these scenarios together, having your narrative built, and then playing what you believe. So let's quickly get into some of these entries now. So I was up a bit early, jumped on charts a bit early, and first of all, it's quite simple, right? I just want you to. It's hard for me to go over these trades sometimes because I feel like a lot of the time you just need to sit and watch and observe. But in terms, not observe me, but observe what you're seeing. But here we have, quite simply, push up, right? And this aggression, right, leaves an OB, creates an OB, and all I'm doing is trying to play that OB out of there, right? You can see your additive, 2 pips stop, right? Get triggered in a bit late, but you can see where I'm putting my stop as protection, and then we get that run up, right? Now this run, I didn't expect it to break straight away because I knew that we had to react. I'm just gonna start over here. I knew we had to react basically out of this entire OB here. So we reacted once, but what do we see out of these high time frame ranges? We get these multiple rejections. In this case, if we was going to reject here, 2 seconds. In this case, if we was rejecting here, right, and we was going to see lower prices, then obviously we're going to be calling that as the new, right, lower higher, which means that, what's the narrative? Narrative is bearish, right? But if the narrative is bullish, then what this is likely going to become is a range, and we're going to break through it, right? Because the intention is to create higher prices. So you can see where I'm building my bias, and obviously that's what we get here. So I'll take a continuation, and then we come up to here, we get that range. So you can see where my my range is, right, and where my high is. So this is what I'm trying to essentially, sorry, wrong one, this one here. This is what I'm basing my stop on. So knowing that we need a reaction out of this, right, this area here, this is me essentially playing, pretty easily. It's pretty easy to play these reactions, right? As long as your stop's in a decent place, what you're waiting for is just that pause and then that move in the opposite direction. So that obviously was the hedge that I was looking for, which came, and then I was essentially looking for what price wanted to do it. So at that point, I wasn't really too bothered. I was in the range, and then yeah, obviously understanding over here what I was a part of, right? help me notice that how this liquidity like this, see these equal lows, was stacked above essentially this edge here. And when you're looking at this one from a time frame perspective, right, it's just one of these things you see, right? I'm even gonna just jump a time frame now, right? So you can, if you can see that, let me just quickly. So quick remove this. So you can see this as prices, wrong one. As prices coming up, right? You have to look through the candles. You can see that this area here is where price pauses and then initiates from, right? So this whole, you know, lower half essentially is a trading range, right? As in where you can look to take your entry at. Then all that comes after that is how you're then applying your stop. So you see, right? Easy under 2 pip stop. Again, got taken a bit higher, but again, you know, stop was pretty well fine. And then what I wanted to see was obviously a reaction, which we got near enough straight away. And then I was just tracking the continuations, and I was gonna take these as continuations, but I just thought, look, it's literally, you know, 7:30. Let me just kind of warm into the day rather than just kind of jumping into this. But you know, I was very confident on my narrative. So even these here, this is all lower time frame reactions. These were trades I wanted to take, but again, just I just wanted to wait to see what price done. Yeah, as I got taken out of this, so I just wanted to, you know, I was waiting for this. This is when I was like in group, like, when is this high gonna break properly, right? Because I'm waiting for it. Yes. So then obviously price again, like, look, notice what price is doing here. Notice how price is ranging at a place, right, of mitigation. What is the reason for this, right? So what does that become? You see that run down, that pullback is to create higher prices. You see the aggression and speed that comes in here. So we're at 9 o'clock and I'm seeing this aggression and speed. I'm happy that I'm seeing that narrative play out. And now once again, I'm looking to get long. And this is the trade I'm basically going to go over in detail versus the other ones, because the other ones are pretty straightforward. But this is the one I was trying to explain in my video that just didn't save earlier. So yeah, one of them didn't save and the other one didn't record my voice. So just stick to what works is what I've learned today. But once this loads, we'll get to it. We've got 30 minutes. So slow. Right, we're here nearly. So and if you do pay attention, you do look at, these boxes I draw on. Like, they're not there for no reason. They're actually really building this narrative and what this kind of expectation of price and what it can do, and the potentials of what it can do. Over the next couple of weeks, Burton's got a really good topic that he wants to kind of talk to you about. So I think that will kind of expand your mind on things a bit more. So look, this is essentially the trade, right? And I wanted to kind of bar replay this, but I'm not going to, because I think it's just going to go too slow. But this is what I was seeing essentially. So obviously I'm expecting price to react somewhere in this grey box, right? Obviously we see price starts to deliver. I'm just going to use the zoom annotation tool. Now I know this is a 15-minute and there's a lot of data here, but just be slow and don't go too quickly. Allow your eyes to take in everything you're seeing, right? So here we get price slowing down, right? At a point of understanding, right? We enter here, we start moving sideways. So now price starts initiating to the downside, as we can see, taking at lows, right? So we get a momentum shift now. That's fine, right? that momentum shift, for me, I'm understanding, right, you know, is this going to, you know, create anything, or is this going to, you know, just be a pullback for higher prices? And now I've asked myself that question many, many times. In this case, I believed it was going to, it was just a pullback for higher prices. So you see that speed and aggression come in. You can look to take shorts here. You know, ultimately this is the range that's holding up above. We see cores being built. Now, when we start to see these lows run, and I'm starting to see this pullback, this is what I'm focused on, these lows now, right? So we can see as these lows start to get run, we start to get these shallow breaks, and then we start to get, you know, pullbacks. And what it's essentially showing us is that market is ranging. Where do we pull back to? Right, and we're reacting. So it's not random, it's understandable. That creates a reaction, and then look, right before it gets to the low, we slow down. Right, once again we get a shallow break, we get a reaction. Right, so look at this one here. See how this pullback breaks above these highs, right, and mitigates the top half of this range. That creates a reaction, takes out this low, right? And then as I'm watching this, let me see if I can just quickly bar replay. As I'm watching this now being delivered, I'm literally saying to myself, well, this will be great if there was some evidence here for a BFI initiation. So any aggression and speed out of this range is probably going to be BFI stacking, right? Because look, notice this low. Notice how price breaks a low and starts moving sideways. But look how it's moving sideways. Aggression, but absolutely it's not moving anywhere, right? Not moving anywhere, then bang. So I'm watching this range being built. And I've said that scenario to myself. It'd be great if there was initiation out of here, because that would show me that BFIs are stacking in that range and about to initiate higher prices, right? So we break the low. The breaking this low gives cause for something different. If you notice, every time we break the low, something new happens. Break the low, something new happens. Break the low, something new happens. Break the low, something new's about to happen. For me, all I'm going to do now is play this. When price reacts, right, it gives us this obvious place where we can see a reaction near the high, right? Now, this needs to be mitigated out of. Now, when price has initiated out of this range, I'm now asking myself, where is price likely to head to? And look, I have my location. Now, that is 3 pips away, 4 pips away, yeah? And if I take this long now, I don't know why it's all the way back here. If I take this long in here, right, as price is pulling back, so we get this range initiation, right? Now, what do we expect to follow? A mitigation and continuation. So here, I'm seeing a mitigation for me, right? And now I want to see a reaction away, right? And that's what we get. So when I'm in this trade now, right, I'm thinking, cool. Well, this is continuation. This is rather going to hold, and it's going to become a low in here, right? It's going to become a low in here, pull back, low. Remember, we're not coming shallow, we're not coming deep, sorry, very shallow pullback, showing because of speed and aggression, and that's what we're following, and this is me taking that, right? So now, as price is initiating away, right, we see we move sideways again. I have to wait. I have to wait to see what price does. I'm not trying to close. There's not much I can do based on where my entry is in terms of moving and whatever. So, you know, just let it play out. That's what I'm trying to say, leave it to play out. But I have my intention, and I want to see it be delivered. So here we see that reaction out of here. Obviously, based on having higher prices, I didn't believe obviously this high was going to hold at all. Yeah, essentially I was waiting for the break. And you need to remember that although I was looking for this to break, it was just remembering that this high hadn't actually created anything. And now, you know, essentially all of this needs to be reacted and run through. Sorry. Right, and that's what we get. So, yes, I hope that was kind of straightforward. Again, not your most straightforward trade, but it's just making, whether it's straightforward, whether you see the entry, obviously you can get in multiple times here. It doesn't really matter where you get in, right? Because all down here is a good location anyway. But it's just, really just looking at price and letting yourself see how price moves. So then you can start believing what you're seeing based off what price does and not what you feel, right? This is where you can build trust, and obviously you can see things work out and play out. Yes. So pretty straightforward. Now, when we're looking at these reaction points, obviously we want to be thinking, what can happen in these areas, and then, let's see what price does, essentially. Let's quickly take off this bar replay tool, go back onto the 1M, and then quickly get this back up. So what I probably should have done was made this full screen, and we're just gonna kind of scoot over these in this narrative. Now, look at the session times, right? I'm playing inside my session times, and you can see that I'm, playing pretty much, the right narrative, right direction, and I'm seeing these reaction points that where price can react based on what we've done on the left, which is here. And all I'm trying to do is just take these obvious points, and I'm waiting for price to react there. See, they're not even super, tight, and that's because I'm not trying to take shorts off of them, right? Obviously, the ones I'm trying to take shorts off of, they're going to be more narrowed down. But the point is, we need to see a reaction, right? When I'm thinking about where price is going to head to, like when I'm thinking about, cool, if this is a real momentum shift, we're going to want to take out the swing point, right? I've got, the first swing essentially, which is not, it's a swing within the range, but the swing doesn't actually create anything. The real swing's up here, right? So this is my swing point. This is where I'm kind of waiting for price to break. You can see that this reaction here, right? I'm not trying to trade out of that, right? I'm trying to see this high get broken. So reaction points. So quite clearly we can see that, it's great, doing this over and over again, you start getting more accurate with your reaction points. Obviously based on higher time frame, it's pretty easy, right? It's just the accuracy that obviously is the more of the harder part. But let's just follow price now quickly in this area. So let's get the annotation tool up again. So let's start from my trade here, right? So let's see what price does. So price creates this high, creates this low, right? Moving from here, right? Price continues, right? We get this reaction off of here, and look how price holds in this range, right? Then we get initiation, right? We get this pullback, and we get this aggression, right? So what do we know? We know we have, a relative range, and price needs to, right, come back into this range for a mitigation. And because we have that narrative of higher prices, we can say that this OB has been delivered there, or this range has been delivered there for a purpose to support higher prices, right? So we start building this narrative, we start building this confidence based on what we've seen, not based on what we believe, based off of what we've seen in the theory of what we do, right? BFIs need to mitigate out of this, which will cause prices to head higher. And the higher we talk about in terms of continuation is taking out this high, right? This is the narrative. This is my belief, and this is what I'm playing. So, remember that, right? Use that in the moment and use it to back yourself. So here's that narrative at play, right? This is a trade that I would have been a part of, if not these or any of these pullbacks for higher prices based on that narrative, right? So then once again, price is pulling back and continuing higher, right? So we can see price starting to create more structure now. So when price comes up to this edge here, just gonna scroll back so you can see where this is. So look, we've broken this high now, you know, lovely, jubbly, and now we're essentially right at this high over here. So we can see that this range is where we had this reaction, move away. So likely we're going to come back into this range and we're either going to mitigate out of it for lower prices, or it's just going to come cause for higher prices. We can see what's on the left, clear liquidity, so we expect, you know, what could happen next, especially with the aggression that we're seeing. So just got a theory behind this structure here. So quite simply, right, we get this, again, pullback, right, we get a low, right, we get this high that happens, and then we get this pullback, right? Obviously we get this pullback. If we just kind of deem these as the same, so we're not really thinking about anything here, we're just thinking about the range that got created. So here's our range low, here's our range high, right? We can clearly see that this delivery down here was really quick, so that's a high time frame wick. And we can see here that we have this OB, right? That price did not mitigate as we initiated up, right? So then now when price is now making lower prices and I've got some swing points to kind of go off my trading range, I can understand what is likely to happen back down in here, right? Look at price slow, right? It's not in my session though, so you know this obviously I'm not a part of, but then if we zoom into price delivery, so I'll put another 10, so I've literally got 10 minutes and I need to stop. So if we now look at this price delivery, let's get this off the screen. Right, and we can see how essentially what price is doing is mitigating, right, creating cause, right, and you know, mitigating inside the range, essentially creating cause. So we see this high being made here, right, that causes price to move lower into this mitigation, right, that causes price to bounce here, which causes price to then move up. Now obviously again, because of what I've seen here and this run up and this reaction, and this range here on a lower time frame has not been mitigated out of, you can see that now I'm playing that bearish intention. That bearish intention is seeing that we have aggression to the downside, right? And that this move out of this high could see lower prices, right? Also based on that though, there's many times I've sat here, right, and looked at liquidity and said, yeah, that has to get run, right? Just like this. And in this case, you know, I thought the same thing. But one thing I wanted to make sure of was that that's not true until this range has been broken, right? So until that range gets broken, I can't really say that price is bearish, right? Because price is still bullish. So here's me playing that intention. Now, believe me, before I took this short, I already knew what I was going to do down here, right? And that's what I did, right? So I literally got in as we reacted up on a lower time frame, we pulled back, and then we literally reacted straight away. If I zoom out of that, can you see how price runs the high, runs the low, right? And then initiates price, all while stacking and mitigating out of anything above, right? So range, once again, we see that that works out. So now next we've are playing that again we're just obviously playing at higher prices. There's no reason to really look for sells here. You can see where I did take my sells and where I was looking to take sells. So all of these ranges here that you see here, for instance, I was like, cool, that's a good opportunity to sell based on this aggression. Doesn't actually create anything though. So if you know, all I'm going to be doing is hoping that reaction creates something, this to me, for me, wasn't enough, right? If it maybe broke this low, then that's a bit different. So I saw this as this essentially this range unlikely to hold. Obviously that was shown quite obviously, and then essentially I was just letting price play out. So again, I'm not just trying to be blind and not look at the other side, but I am making sure that I am playing what I see, right? And here in the lower time frame, not this one. Here on the lower time frame, if you go on the 15-minute and look at this, right? I was literally so hesitant, and it's, you know, as much as you see the trades that I'm in, there are trades that I do want to get in that I miss because I do hesitate, and this is one of those trades. So I was trying to work out basically a decent stop on here, and by the time I'd done that, price had moved away. But you know, that would have been, you know, a 2-pip stop, and price ran for, you know, just literally 9 pips and then bounced. So there's enough there to move to break even. But look, just that narrative that I was playing, I would have been a part of it. Now, when price comes back again, I'm not trying to be a part of it because I'm assuming that every pullback is going to create higher prices. This is obviously a clear pullback. Are we going to see higher prices? And again, I'm long, right? I don't need to force the short here. I'll play it when it's obvious. So yeah, so continuation, what do we get? So we see that this high is broken with this range, right? Price comes down, runs that high now, and then obviously creates this wick. And look what this becomes, right? This is kind of what I played this morning, right? In Asia, right? This was the idea of what I was playing. Playing an edge, understanding that cause is being built above for a mitigation of higher prices. So that's exactly what I played here. Very, very nice trade. Quickly going to go down on a 15-second and show you. Got 5 minutes left. And this was, I don't want to say, you know, the, you know, overconfident or anything, but I mean, at this stage, it's pretty easy just to keep on buying, right? I say easy, but I mean the flow state that I'm currently in. Obviously, I'm able to see those buys pretty well. Not everything, but the ones that I recognize are the ones that I trade. So yeah, so this buy was essentially exactly as I told you, right? Seeing how cores are being built, right, inside our range, and then seeing that this range is delivered before a break in structure. Price breaks, and I'm looking for price to pull back into that range. So if you think of this as your kind of A down here, your B up here, I'm taking that continuation from about 50%, right? I measure this, I didn't measure this, but look, bang on, right? I mean, my eyes are just used to it now. But you see, yeah? So everything's there, everything makes sense. And what am I doing? I'm playing that for continuation. So if you go back to our continuation videos, you will see that obviously this is how we talk about catching continuations. Yeah, and then obviously there's, you know, some other trades you could have took as reactions for higher prices as well. But do we create higher prices? Yes, right? So you're talking about, you know, 14%, 20%. That one just I actually took a small win here, but I just called it break even. Zoom out. Yeah, 26%. It's about 25, and this one, 47%. Right. Not including this one, which I took small profit on, and this one I took a small profit on, right? So, yeah, you know, this is how your day can go. I haven't really been trading for a while, like properly, fully on, but this is what I'm looking to get into now, to kind of just get back on my watching the sessions and being a part of what I see. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, again, just, you know, go over what you see, and just allow yourself to build this picture on what price does. And you don't necessarily just have to do it over here. You can go on a lower time frame. You can go on a higher time frame, and gain that same idea. You don't always have to look over here, right, to try and anticipate what price is going to do. Sometimes we just look back and we say, right, what has price done in the past, right? Because then we can start to see what it's likely to do again in the future, right? Versus trying to predict, whether we're going to, drop out the sky from here. But yeah, that's me, guys. Hope you all had a good week. Friday tomorrow, so as we know, let's see what the day brings. I'm gonna try and be on for London. Well, I will be on for London, shall I say? But I'm not sure about New York yet. But yeah, Any questions, guys? Just hit me up, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. Catch you later.